Good morning, everyone. We'd like to welcome you this morning to the full Committee of House Transportation on Valentine's Day, February the 14th. Hope you remember to your significant other or someone that you're fond of, like I am with Rob Bohannon, my favorite lobbyist, sitting here. I'm going to have to rush out and get him a Valentine later this morning. So he wore his pink tie this morning for me. So
Move to PBI.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. We've got a few bills this morning, and most of them we're just conforming and bringing them in alliance with other bills. But this morning, first before us, Senator Openchain has Senate Bill 1220, which is a designation Dominic Nick J. Wenham Memorial Bridge. Senator. Yes, sir.
Chairman, I've got my sunniest disposition now and my pink shirt. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this is Senate Bill 1220. 7 days from now, on February 21, that'll be the second anniversary of the death of Officer Nick Wenham, a Stanley police officer who was shot to death in the town of Stanley. In the performance of his duties, Nick Wenham was a former state trooper, spent time on the Eastern Shore, beloved member of Page County community, and for a little county like Page County and a little town like Stanley, the loss of a police officer under circumstances like this involved drugs was just tremendously traumatic. He was a great guy, great family. The County Board of Supervisors in the town of Stanley passed a resolution requesting legislation renaming the westbound span of the Route 211 bridge over the Shenandoah River in memory and honor of Dominic J. Nick Wenham. That's what this bill is.
Okay, Senator, thank you for presenting this bill for us. And before we move to a motion to consider this bill, I would ask that at this time, would we take a moment of silence in consideration and respect for Dominic Nick Wenham and the Memorial Bridge, if you would, please. Thank you all. Okay, at this time, the committee acts by motion. We have a motion report and a second. Everyone in favor, go to the voting board, please. Voting for or against the bill.
Mr. Clerk, my vote doesn't seem to be registered.
Okay, Doug LaRock, how would you vote?
I would vote yes.
Doug LaRock votes yay. So, okay, you're on the board now. Anyone else? All righty. Thank you. The bill reports 17-0, Senator. And thank you, sir.
Chairman, members of the committee, thank you very
Appreciate
much.
you for bringing this bill.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. Now we'll move down the agenda. We have Senate Bill 1057, Senator Hanger's bill, which is a farm use plaque bill. This is a bill that was brought before us last year. Delegate Bloxham brought a bill, and we thought we had it in good posture. We learned out later that we did not. We worked on that, and I appreciate everyone's work, Farm Bureau, DMV, the insurance people, lots of moving parts of this piece of legislation. But Senator Hanger's bill is similar to House Bill 1006. So we're going to leave that bill as it is, and we'll act on the bill. Delegate Bloxham. We have a motion report in a second. Okay, go to the electronic voting board. Bill reports 17-0. Thank you. Next bill on our docket is Senate Bill 1063, Senator Spruill. This bill is identical to House Bill 2247.
Move to report.
We have motion report and second. Bill's probably before us. Please vote. The bill reports 18-0. Our next bill is Senator Cosgrove's 1079. It's similar to House Bill 1496.
Move to conform.
So motion to conform, have a second?
Second.
Okay. It's a voice vote. Everyone in favor of voting to conform Senate Bills 1079 to House Bill 1496 signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The bill is conformed. Senator, the next bill on the docket is 1106.
Move to report.
Oh, I'm sorry, move to report 1079. Second? Okay, go to the
As
board.
conformed.
Yep, as conformed. Thank you, Delegate Blocks. Delegate Bagby, are you? Okay, the bill report's 18-0. Now we'll move to Senate Bill 1106. Senator Newman, the Transportation Partnership Opportunity Fund. This bill is identical to House Bill, well, it's similar to House Bill 2302. We'll need to conform this bill.
Move to conform.
Have a motion to conform in a second. Everyone in favor of conforming the bill signify by saying aye. Aye. But the bill is properly before us. Have a motion to report.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Motion report and second. Okay. Everyone vote. Delegate Carr. Okay. All right, the bill report's 14-4. Our next bill is Senate Bill 1165, Senator Lewis, Commonwealth Transportation Board Regulation Authority. This bill is similar to House Bill 1437.
Accept the Senate version. Move to report.
So we have a motion to accept and report. Okay. Delegate Bagby, I'm sorry.
Trying to figure out on this piece of legislation, who is providing oversight on this?
This would be, Emma, can you, what do you mean oversight?
Is it VDOT or,
It would be Secretary of Transportation, I would say.
okay, can you explain this bill? I'm sorry.
All right, who has House Bill 1437? Is that
I do, Mr. Chairman. This is the license plate.
Delegate Wiley?
Yes, sir.
License plate reader bill?
License plate reader bill. This basically takes what's already existing with the mobile units and placing them in designated VDOT right-of-way locations. It has, in terms of the use, it has strict limitations in terms of you're looking for felons, it's silver alerts, amber alerts, and it has also strict guidelines in terms of how long they can hold the data, no longer than 30 days. And there's strict penalties for misuse of the data. Does that recall?
Dr. Bagby, does that answer your concerns?
It does. My question is, does law enforcement, what role does law enforcement have? And does VDOT normally, are they normally responsible for holding data like this?
I misspoke. This is oversight of state police, not Secretary of Transportation. But state, okay, you want to speak to the bill?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, David Skiles, the Vector Corporation, representing Flock Safety, which is a private vendor. Delegate Bagby, the issue here with this bill is who's going to permit these devices. So this legislation would authorize VDOT to permit these devices in the right-of-way. But in terms of the data and those types of things, obviously, as Delegate Wiley stated, that's spelled out in the statute as part of this legislation. Functionally, all of the interaction between a private vendor who is deploying these devices in the right-of-way would happen with the law enforcement agency that has authorized or requested their use. So in some cases, that would be the state police or a local law enforcement officer when it is not on a interstate or a certain main artery. Does that answer your question, sir?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
So who is the actual organization or group, is it private or public, that is actually responsible for holding the data?
Mr. Chairman and Delegate Bagby, the answer to the question is it would be, in most cases, a private vendor who is holding that data. That is not unusual in the code. As you will recall, in 2020, then Delegate Jay Jones carried a legislation that authorized speed enforcement in school zones and work zones, and it is the same basic function in terms of a private vendor who contracts with a law enforcement entity or agency to operate those devices. This bill spells out that that data cannot be held for any more than 30 days, which is typically standard practice when you look across the country. And not only do you have that particular example, but private entities hold this type of data for tolling enforcement or other types of situations. So it's not an unusual situation where you would have a private company. All of that data is encrypted. They use encryption services and cloud services that are typically used by the Pentagon or Department of Defense. So it's highly encrypted data that is cleaned out every 30 days unless it's being used for a law enforcement purpose or investigation.
Yes, sir. Delegate Bagby.
And to be clear, not final, because I have one more. after this.
Sure, you're fine.
Final part about that. To be clear, what data are they capturing? I heard something about felons.
Mr. Chairman, Delegate Bagby, in the legislation, it specifies that the only data that can be captured is the make, model, color, and license plate data of the motor vehicle. It specifically states what type of felony investigations this data could be used for, and then goes on to say what it can't be used for, which would be, in this particular case, speed enforcement, photo enforcement, HOV enforcement, tolling violations. So it's very specific about what types of felonies it could be used for, and then, of course, what type of data can be collected.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, I would just say.
Yes, sir.
There are members of the courts committee here. If this is not something they normally would hear, I'll be quiet, but it sounds like something that courts would normally hear.
I think there's kind of a cross-pollination here. You're correct. It could have gone to courts, Delegate Bagby, but it ended up here. I think we've worked with state police. State police can use these devices now mobile on their vehicles, but they were not permitted in the right-of-way as a fixed object. This bill, that's what this bill does. The intent is specific in the language, no speed enforcement. It's to look at the vehicle for vehicle identification, for missing persons, Amber Alerts, things of that nature. And state police really needed this tool. It's permissive in cities now, and if someone were alerted of someone missing, the city has it, but the minute they got in on the VDOT right-of-way, these objects were not permitted. So that's why we've moved forward with advancing this legislation. I think it brings merit and value, but I understand the concerns there are, and I respect your concerns.
No, Mr. Chair, it sounds
Yes, sir.
And I foresee this legislation moving forward. Hopefully we can talk to clear up anything so I can speak and I'll talk this on.
And I think if you talk offline, you're going to find that a lot of your concerns are answered.
That'd be great.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Okay.
LaRock is in the queue.
Pardon? Oh, I'm sorry, David. Delegate LaRock, Vice Chair. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Question for Commissioner Skiles. Commissioner of NVTC, if I'm not mistaken. Presently, this technology is available for use in mobile state trooper vehicles. So in the case of an Amber Alert, they could deploy these vehicles to essentially do the same collection that you're describing. Is that correct?
So, Mr. Chairman and Delegate LaRock, if we take a step back for just one moment, in 2020, there was a Supreme Court decision that was issued, or opinion rather, that made clear that both the use of stationary devices as well as mobile devices were allowed in the Commonwealth. The issue then came down to the deployment of these devices, and what was later determined was that VDOT did not have the statutory authority to permit the deployment of these devices. So currently in the Commonwealth, if you are in a city or in a town where VDOT does not have control of your right-of-way, these devices can be deployed in a stationary setting. In places where VDOT does have control of the right-of-way, they cannot. And so what we have ended up with is sort of a patchwork of a situation where in some places law enforcement are putting these adjacent to VDOT right-of-way. And of course, there's very little regulation over those devices currently in the existing code. What this bill does is bring some uniformity to that. It provides that authority to VDOT to permit the devices, and then it creates a whole host of regulations regarding the retention of that data, what types of data can be collected, what it can be used for, so on and so forth. So that's a long-winded answer to your question, but whether or not this legislation were to move forward, these devices are legal and can continue to be used by law enforcement. What I would say is this legislation actually puts parameters or guardrails on what that data can be used for, and not only what it can be used for, but how long it can be retained. Now, typically that's industry best practice, but you've actually put that in the statute.
Quick follow-up, if I may.
Yes, sir.
So in addition to guardrails, it expands the use as well, am I correct?
No, I would not say that it expands the use, Delegate. I think we narrowed the use to several very definitive intentful uses. And I think if you read the bill, you'll see that it's very narrow in focus with identification, color of the vehicle, and the device has to be focused on the license plate of the vehicle. It's not focused on the driver or anything of that purpose. It's specific for identifying vehicles by color, make, model, and license plate number. So,
But if we're expanding, or excuse me, if we're passing this legislation, if we're not expanding it, what's the purpose of the legislation?
well, because we're trying to keep it, we know that there's some controversy associated with a broad use of the device, and we're trying to narrow it to a very intended purpose for use. So we put those guardrails on it with intent. And I'd like to ask the state police, these devices are not on all mobile units, are they? Are they just on a certain number of mobile units?
Mr. Chairman, Ron Maxey, Virginia State Police. Yes, sir. Currently, we've got them for varying uses on state police vehicles. Technology is moving forward that in-car cameras in the future will all have LPR license plate readers installed in them. And for clarification, as Mr. Skiles mentioned, the devices are currently mounted by the state police within the VDOT right-of-way. The reason the state police supports this bill is now it has come to light that we need VDOT to have the authority to allow us to continue its use, or we're going to have to remove all of these devices. Using the devices, this is strictly for stationary units on the interstate. We will continue to use them in our police cars. This has nothing to do with that. Law enforcement off of the interstates can use this anywhere they deem necessary. Third parties, contract companies can use them for varying things. Cities use them for parking. As was mentioned, Mr. Chairman, it does put guardrails on it. I can tell you personally, the retention schedule is all over the place as far as how law enforcement agencies hold them. We currently hold the data for 24 hours. We've got some agencies across the state that hold them indefinitely. There is no retention. So this does apply some guardrails which were not in place, and I think it gives guidance to law enforcement agencies as to how they should handle that data.
Thank you, Mr. Maxson. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Well, we have to deliver a message to the Transportation Senate Chairman here, Senator Marsden. I think you all are not needed. Your bills will be conformed, and I think if we don't want to hold you up, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you both. Appreciate you. Appreciate you coming. I apologize for not letting you know sooner. Thank you. Okay. All right, so the committee acts by motion.
Move to
Second.
Okay, we have a motion report in a second. Bills properly before us. We want to go to the electronic voting board. Okay. So everyone voted. It appears the bill advances with a 12-6 vote. Thank you all. All righty, we'll go now to Senator Lucas's bill, 1216, Transportation Network Companies, Uninsured and Underinsured Motor Vehicle Coverages, TNC, which is identical to the bill I had, House Bill 1495.
Move to report.
We have a motion to report and a second. Everyone go to the electronic voting board, please. everyone voted. Appears the bill advances 18-0. Now we move to Senate Bill 1318, Senator Edwards, Special License Plate, Blue Ridge Parkway Foundation, which is identical to House Bill 1494, another bill that I carried.
Move to report.
Have a motion to report and a second. This bill reports 18-0. Next is Senator McClellan, House Senate Bill 1326, which is identical to 2338, and it's the Transportation Ridership Incentive Program funds improving accessibility transit to zero emissions.
Move to report.
Have a motion to report and a second. Bill reports 15-3. Next, we have Senate Bill 1372, Senator Vogel, Special License Plate, Women and Veterans. We need to conform it to House Bill 2080.
Move to conform.
A motion to conform, a second. Everyone in favor of conforming signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Bill's properly before us. I have a motion to report.
Second.
And a second. Okay, go to the electronic voting board, please. Next, we have Senate Bill 1473, Senator Marsden, Toll Operator Department Motor Vehicle Records. It's identical to 2381. Bill's properly before us.
Move to report.
Have a motion to report and a second. Go to the board, please. We lost one. 16 to, bill reports 17-1. Okay. It appears that completes our docket. Emma, I think we have a former member of our Transportation Committee, Delegate Askew, in the room. Good to see you, sir. Thank you for being here. And I know why you're here. It's Valentine's Day, and you've got a young lady up front. So I hope that cost you dearly, sir. Thank you. Appreciate you being here, Alex. I apologize, Delegate Ward. Delegate Ward, did you want to speak?
Yeah, just a second.
Yes.
We voted on the prevailing side by which we passed House Bill 1106 passed, and we consider that vote.
Okay. Do we have a second to that motion? Which page is that? 1106. Senator Newman's Transportation Partnership Opportunity Fund?
Yes.
Okay. We moved to conform that bill to the bill that Delegate Adams had that I laid a substitute on, and which made the bill, this will put the two bills in conference by doing what we're doing. We're taking the bill before MEI. So is there a motion? You want to move to conform? Okay. All right, so the bill's properly back before us. So we have a motion to conform. Everyone in favor of conform signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Okay, so now your action on the bill. Is there a motion?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. What is your motion?
Move to conform.
We've already done that.
All right.
Okay.
Leave it like that then.
So you're going to report it after you've conformed it? You move to report?
Move to report.
Okay, I have a motion to report. Second? Okay. Now, so we have to go to the board again. All right.
Never mind.
You're fine, Delegate Ward. We'll backtrack and walk through these steps again.
All right. Now,
So you're comfortable now. The bill reports 10-5. Okay? Thank you. I'll be happy to discuss that action offline with you if you'd like. All right. this time, committee, we're out.